All right. Good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are in the world. I just posted a newsletter about Donald Trump, which I hate doing, but I did it. So I'm going to talk about it a little bit because there's a couple of dates I didn't post in my newsletter that I'm going to give you only on this broadcast. Let's get started. Before I do, I need to just make sure my phone is off. Hold on. And text someone real quick. Okay. So back in March of 2020, I posted Donald Trump's forecast, a mini reading on him, a brief analysis is what I had called it. So I'm going to paste that there so you can see the brief analysis. So this isn't the greatest of printouts, but I didn't want to do it again, and so it's a little crooked, but you'll get the idea. So if you look closely, this is Donald Trump's chart, and as you can see, Dragon Head is in the first house and the tail is in the seventh, and it's got a moon sitting there. We're going to talk about that. That is not good. That is not good. So and if you go to the newsletter I just posted, we'll show you this wheel and give you more perspective, and you can look at it closer and you can look at his aspects and where planets are placed. Anyway, so what I have done is I have tapped into his progressive chart, and only my clients that have purchased full life readings get this option. I think I charge 35 or 40 bucks and it goes for the whole year. And it's a progressive, so it will give you these transits. Now, I'm not going to read each and every transit that is happening. That's on you. You have to go in and read those through my newsletter. I'll post the newsletter at the bottom of this broadcast, but you can also go to astrologywitch.com, go into the weekly forecast, and it's the first one because I just posted this like 15 hours ago. But so this is just the transits that are going to be hitting him. Most of them are negative. There's some positive ones I've incorporated. I didn't incorporate them all. I actually incorporated the ones that are very repetitive throughout the year that will have the most impact on him. And like I've said, it's already been a crazy year, and we haven't seen anything yet. On my Facebook page, I shared some quatrains the other day, written by Nostradamus from the book Les Prophéties. And I'm going to read a few of them to you. I've incorporated them into this newsletter because they pertain to what's going on right now. So let me go in and read those first before we start with Donald Trump. Quatrain, one of the quatrains, I posted 3. These are all from Century 1, which is the first chapter, I believe. And here is one of them, and it reads, when the litters are overturned by the whirlwind and the faces are covered by cloaks, the new republic will be troubled by its people. At this time, the reds and the whites will rule wrongly. So what is this referring to? Breaking it down, please remember that in the time of Nostradamus, there were no cars, there were no planes, there were no airplanes of any type, nothing flying in the air except for probably UFOs. There was no computers, there was no internet. So he was solely doing this by not just the stars, but he was a great warlock. He did a lot of scrying. And for those of you that aren't in the magical world, scrying, a lot of people do scrying. I do it too, except I use a mirror. Nostradamus back in the day used a bowl of water, and it's like a crystal ball for scrying. Anyway, this is referring to COVID-19. If we break this down, where the litters are overwhelmed by a whirlwind of faces that are covered by cloaks. We're having to cover our faces from the COVID-19. This is also referring to the United States of America. You're going to notice in a lot of his quatrains, he refers to us either as a great nation or a young nation, or what was the other word he liked to use quite a bit? The New Republic, that's another name referring to the United States of America. And this is also referring to a Republican stronghold, the reds and the white. There's no mention of blue, which I've always said, like the Tau symbols and the universe of balance, if you have too much of one thing, it will make things unbalanced. And that's exactly what's happening. You've noticed through the last 4 years, especially with Saturn being in Capricorn, which is the stronghold of conservatism, abortion has become illegal, rights on women. This is the stronghold of a conservative Republican Party. That's all I'm going to say on that. It's making things unbalanced. Let's just put it that way. Okay, then next quatrain I put here was, the trumpet shakes with great discord. An agreement is broken, lifting the face to heaven. The body mouth will swim with blood. The face anointed with milk and honey lies on the ground. Unfortunately, this is kind of explaining Trump's fate, which will play out in a deadly way in some ways. And all the treaties that he has broken, there is bound to be repercussions coming from it. His rhetoric, his speech, it does not instill any kind of harmony or balance. His hidden dragon tail is in Libra, creating discord, division, and chaos. October and December will be one of his worst months for the remainder of 2020. June isn't too good either. July isn't going to be good, not necessarily for him, but for us as a nation. Something is coming in July. Not more for us as a nation than it is for him, but we have quite a lack of leadership right now. We don't have someone who is a person of unity. We have a person that wants civil war. Trump wants civil war. Now, I hate to keep repeating this, but occultists, shamans, starseeds, astrologists, and esoterics warned many, many people 5 years ago of a dictator mentality with many hues of racism enrobed in this. This is where we warned you about constitutional laws that would be violated, tempered with false information, and people don't know what's fake and what's real. In the realm of psychology, Trump is a class A gaslighter. These are people that are very good at selling things. They gaslight the situation. That's what he does. It's textbook 101 psychology for gaslighting. But those that feed into this will follow him and his blind allegiance. Unfortunately, there are going to be between probably 30 and 40% of people in the United States that will be on the wrong side of history. Going to the last quatrain that I posted, because I felt this one was incredibly important. Alas, we will see a great nation sorely troubled, and the holy law in utter ruin. Christianity governed throughout by other laws, when a new source of gold and silver is discovered. Well, now, I had to write a 2-paragraph for this one. Now, this is referring to the United States. The United States is a very puritanical nation. Some say it was founded on religion or the freedom of religion, and that is very true, but it is also a young country, less than, what, 250 years old. And it, how do I say this with any kind of tact? Anytime you have a nation that was founded by desecrating other races, you will always have you always have blood on your hands as a nation. What has to happen is the nation has to accept what has been done from past years, past centuries back. There has to be forgiveness, but there also has to be healing. But until we accept the wrongs that have been done to the indigenous people, to the people, we will never heal and we will never progress forward. And that's what you're seeing happening right now. We're seeing a great divide. But what I'm trying to say, this is referring to a puritanical nation. And the holy law, which most Christians are deeply failing to live up to these days. The ones that call themselves Christians are the ones that are the most hypocritical, full of hypocrisy. Now, not all Christians. The Christians that are in my own life are some of the most divine souls I have ever had the great pleasure of meeting. About is something called Christ consciousness. That's not something that's made just for Christians. All walks of life have this thought process. Atheists can have this thought process. It's in what you do. It's in your actions. The Christ consciousness of this country is gone. It's lost. Yeah, your president can sit there and hold the Bible up and hide behind a cross and a Bible. But the hypocrisy is just astounding. Let's just put it that way. The Christ consciousness is exactly what Jesus stood for. Help the meek, the poor, help the sick, the less fortunate, give insight and guidance where needed, be kind and loving. That is the mantra of the Christ consciousness. That isn't being represented anymore. It's hypocrisy at its finest. And there are some of you out there that do hide behind a cross and a Bible, and you're in for a rude awakening. Won't be my generation. It'll be my kids' generation that transforms religion. It's coming. It's happening. And Canada just announced that it is going to start taxing its churches. So hi, Gail. Yes. Doesn't she? Okay. Thank you. I'm going to talk about her in just a minute, but thank you for bringing that up. I've said this and people go, no, 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 no. Look into her eyes, read her body language. And honestly, I don't know if it's a lost soul or deeply ashamed. They're behind those eyes, behind that poker face exterior. She's pissed. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, that lady looks so mad behind her eyes. But she has class. She is a classy lady, contrary to what some people say. I've looked at her stars. And, 5 years ago, I used to make fun of her too, because that was the thing to do. But actually, once I started looking at her stars, she's actually a really lovely soul. I'll talk more about her in a second, Gail. But yes, she is a bit of a lost soul. Now, in this last quatrain, it talks about a new source of gold and silver is discovered. That new source of gold and silver is referring to Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency. It's the money of the future, and I highly advise you out there investing in it, because if it's one conspiracy theory that I'm going to tell you that is true, it is that the American dollar will crash. It will not hold value in the very near future. Just watch what China and other Asian markets are doing crypto-wise, and you're going to see what I'm talking about. And I'm not someone who has a degree in finance or is a day trader or a stockbroker or anything like that, but I do follow the cryptocurrency markets. And, you know, like, I'm going to use Bitcoin as an example. I cashed in last night. After I finished this news article, the Bitcoin, which I haven't invested much in, rose over 10,000. And I told myself if it ever rose over 10,000, I would trade most of it in, and I did. Didn't make me thousands. It made me a couple $100. I only invested $25. So, hey, I like quadrupled my money times 4. So 8 times the value of $25. You can do the math on that. That's not bad. You have to have a lot of money sometimes to invest a lot, but with crypto, it's not like that. You can start small and build your way up. Something else I've also noticed with crypto, I don't like to always play the market. I don't feel comfortable doing that. So I've also invested in a savings account that is making more interest than your banks are giving you. The banks and the economy are getting ready to crash, and they're getting ready to crash hard. It could be July that this happens. Here's something interesting, though, and it might come to this country as well if we're not careful, because we are no longer a nation of democracy. We're going into a dictatorship. One of the reasons my relatives left Italy was because and fascism, and we are a fascist nation now. And like I said, this channel isn't going to be for everyone. Some of you are going to get very upset with me and stop following me, and that's fine. This is not a channel for the weak. Okay, if you can handle the truth, then you can handle this channel, no matter how mad it makes you. Stars do not lie. Politicians lie. Religious leaders lie, not the stars. However, I want to bring something up about Russia. Russia just made, or is in the process of trying to make it illegal for its citizens to obtain Bitcoin shares. What does this tell me? This tells me that our governments and other governments are definitely onto something, and they know a lot more than they are saying. I wouldn't even be surprised if our own government is already involved in this and is stockpiling it, because that's what happens in this country. So that's just a little food for thought on the cryptocurrency. I highly recommend it. And if you guys ever have any questions, don't hesitate to ask me, because I'm getting better every day at trading and stuff. So before I get started with Donald Trump's quatrains and his aspects, which I'm not going to read each and every aspect, you're going to have to go into that newsletter and actually read them. I do want to go over some of the meanings. Anytime you see something that is sextile, that's harmonious and easy flow. Squares are always going to create tension, even in our own chart. So if you've ever had a progressive reading done and something's squaring something else, whatever that planet, another planet is squaring, it will create energy. It will create a tension energy. Trines mean everything ebbs and flows with harmony. Oppositions can be destructive or challenging. And a conjunction, these can either be positive or negative in nature. It can represent unity, but it can create harmonious energy, or it can be the complete opposite and create aggravation, depending on what other souls and humans are involved in this scenario. So it all depends. Okay, so Donald Trump was born on June 14th, 1946 at 4:45 a.m. in Queens, New York. He was born under a lunar eclipse in Sagittarius. I'm not going to talk about it today, but maybe in my next broadcast. My daughter brought up a conspiracy theory that I just was like, oh my gosh. Let me research it a little more before I bring it up here today, and I'll get back to you on it. But since this year is halfway over, I decided to begin with Donald Trump's birth month, which is, in my opinion, it's called the season of the eclipses. And the reason I say that is because from June 5th through, God, hold on. I got my moon calendar here. From June 5th, bear with me. From June 5th is a lunar eclipse, but it's also a full moon in Scorpio. Or no, Sagittarius. Sorry, full moon in Sagittarius on Friday. This coming Friday, and I'll post another newsletter with the forecast. But scaling down here, we also have another eclipse coming on the 21st in Cancer. I believe this is a solar. And then we have the next full moon, I believe, is another eclipse. I believe it's lunar. Don't quote me. I will double check these and correct any mistakes I've just made. So they call it the season of the eclipse because from one lunar month to the other lunar month, even though it's going from June to July, we have 3 eclipses in 30 days. Wow, that's intense. That's going to be intense, crazy energy. Throw in 4 planets in retrograde. And oh, by the way, Mercury's going retrograde on the 8th. Hate to be the bearer of bad news, but it is. Anyway, Trump was born on a lunar eclipse in Sagittarius. So I'm going to share some of the troubling aspects. Now, like I said, we have this lunar eclipse coming. It's right on Trump. It's right on his dragon's tail, and his moon is in Sagittarius. So here I go to the little wheel again. I know it's a little half-assed and a little crooked, but look at where that 7th house is. And I'm going to hold this up and I'm going to point. You see where that moon is sitting on that tail? As we say here in California, no bueno. It's not good. Sagittarius rules minorities. It rules the African American community in some ways. It rules Native Americans. It rules the indigenous world. It rules the animal kingdom. This also rules education, philosophies, foreigners, and foreign lands. The energy and the axis that's going on right now, I have like 3 cats bugging the hell out of me. What is going on? The princess is sleeping. The other 2, 3. Okay, where was I? Sagittarius rules all of this energy, animal kingdom. It rules education, philosophy, foreigners, and foreign lands. Anytime we're dealing with a tail, either on a president of the United States, which us as a nation is going to take on his karmic residue from this, it also affects us as a nation. This is affecting our 6th house of health. The health of our country is in the toilet. You can see that from watching the news. It's not going to get better. We're going into a civil war. We'll probably be in full-blown war. If it doesn't happen in June, it's going to happen in July. December is going to be the worst month of the year for the United States of America. There's going to be death. There's going to be drama. There's going to be chaos. There's going to be social unrest. These are not good times for this country in any sense of the way. I'm not trying to be a fanatic. I'm not trying to overemphasize anything. I'm giving this to you straight. You will see in the next 6 months what gets ready to happen. Anytime you have this energy negative, you're going to see negative with our minorities. You're going to see negative with the Native Americans and the animal kingdom. You're going to see people not wanting to look for the truth, because Gemini, its polar opposite of Sagittarius, is a truth-seeking sign. Sagittarius in its positive is a truth-seeking sign. They look for the answers. They look for the truth. We have the tail there now. This means everyone's a little more dumbed down, a little more indoctrinated, and is not willing to look for the answers. They're more happy with burying their heads in the sand and saying, okay, let's just continue on with the status quo. You're seeing people outraged, as they should be. I agree. There's a conspiracy, and I'm almost 100% believe this, that, you know, they have all these crazy conspiracies flying around. Here's one that I believe is almost 100% true. There is an underground faction in our entire police force here in the United States where at least 25% of the police officers, not all, but 25% of the police officers that are in the United States are working under a secret faction of white supremacy and the KKK. Now, that is a conspiracy that I think is true. The ones that create the conspiracies will say, no, that is not true. But most conspiracies are erected and created by angry white men. With that being said, there was one conspiracy theory many, many years ago about Michelle Obama saying that she was a man and that she had a penis, and you could see it in pictures. And I saw some of the pictures, and they were photoshopped. Okay, what has happened is, whether you agree with her politics or not, or her husband's, the first African American woman to be president, FLOTUS of the, you know, the first lady of the United States, and this is how people treat her, because she's a strong woman. So you know that you'll get an inferior little man knows that he will get knocked out by her arms, and they were always making fun of her toned arms. And then they started in with this conspiracy theory that her and Barack are a transgender couple and those kids are adopted. Well, if you look at one of the oldest kids, you could tell they looks just like one of them. So what a crock of bullshit. Sorry, pardon my French, but no, those were just angry white men not happy that the first black president was in office. And we can sit here and go rounds back and forth, but you're not going to be able to fool me as the astrologer, for I read the stars, and this nation was founded on racism. So what's happening now is the implosion of this country. So what I'm saying is, with a negative dragon's tail in Sagittarius, people aren't going to look for higher education or philosophy or finding the truth. They're going to be fearful of foreigners and Mexicans and building a wall and this and that. And it's kind of interesting. I was looking at something else someone had posted about Trump's subconscious mind. And now that we're all in quarantine, he subconsciously created his own wall with a virus. And I sat there going, wow, that makes so much sense. Yes, it's exactly what he did. So getting back to Trump, anytime, you know, with this energy sitting right on his 7th house, back again to the chart I go, the 7th house represents the house of marriage, partnerships, contracts. He is not blessed with foreigners or foreign lands. As you can well see, we have cut ties with most of our allies, except I think England. He fears interaction. There's a subconscious fear of interaction with minorities and people of color and indigenous people and foreigners in general. When you have this moon sitting on this dragon tail, it creates a very negative energy pertaining to that house. And with it being in this 7th house, like I said, it creates fear. Trump has not evolved from his dragon tail in Sagittarius, like a great many of us have. His past life was as a minority or as a native or some sort of an indigenous. He was, in his past life, a man of color. And this also relates to the animal kingdom. For with this placement, you either, how do I put this in the most tactful of terms, Christ? With this placement, I'm just going to say it. You either hate minorities and black people and Mexicans and Native Americans and are the natural born racist with a subconscious fear of foreigners and other cultures. And also with this placement, I mean, look, just please think about this. He is the first president in 130 years since President William McKinley. the only president to not have any sort of animal companionship in the White House. The Clintons had a cat. The Bushes had a dog, Millie. I think that. Why I can remember that, I do not know. Obama's had a dog. Throughout history, every president has had some sort of animal companionship. Trump does not have anything. So I can honestly say, by looking at his stars, he does not like animals. He doesn't like foreigners, foreign lands. He doesn't like people of color, indigenous people, anything like that. You can see that. Now, I will tell you something about myself. I share a hidden dragon in this energy. I have a hidden dragon in Gemini, and the tail is in Sagittarius. I also have the moon placed there. Different. Luckily, I know this method of astrology, so I can self-analyze and self-heal myself, especially like this eclipse coming. There's going to be some bad news for me coming. It's probably going to be within the realm of the animal kingdom in my own household, and I won't say any more than that. But a lot of people who have this dragon tail placement have evolved from their dragon's tail. I have evolved. Hi, Lady Eyes of Green. How are you today? I have evolved from this tail, meaning that I have a dragon's tail just like Trump in Sagittarius with a moon sitting there, different house, but I'm the lady who goes out and protests. I'm the lady who fights for civil rights. I'm the crazy animal lady. I love animals. My love for animals goes deeper than my love for humans. I love animals more than I love people. I've evolved from my dragon's tail, though. Trump has not. I have come to higher consciousness. Trump has not. So you can see the difference. Understand, no two stars are alike. There are many people who have the same dragon's placement as Trump, but they're very different people. All depends on the unique celestial identity of an individual soul. So June, October, and December are going to be the most challenging months for the president. July will be the most challenging months, along with December, for us as a nation. Since he is Gemini, he's going to experience things going on in 2s, 4s, and 6s, 4 marriages, 6 children. I'm hypothetically saying this. I think he only has, 4 or 5 kids that he knows of. 246, 246 homes, hotels, businesses. I don't think this is the last marriage for him. I do foresee a divorce, and Melania will either go out a very rich widow. Yes, I said it, widow, or a divorcee. I'm going to do her stars in the very near future in another newsletter, because her own stars do indicate that she has had some health problems in the past, and she has a natal dragon's tail sitting in Virgo on her 6th house of health. So I think she's had some intestinal issues with her stomach and whatnot. I just throwing that out there because of what I see in the stars. But she has a dragon's head in Pisces in the 12th house of the subconscious mind. She also has a Jupiter in Scorpio. There are a couple of other little factors on her chart that signify she's a witch. She's a witch. No, and I'm when I looked at her chart, it kind of sat there going, well, isn't this interesting? Maybe she knows some of that old Slovakian magic. No, Melania Trump has the ability to astral project. Whether she uses those gifts or is even aware of those gifts, I don't know. If she is, I'm sure she doesn't tell anybody, especially her idiot husband. I'll do her stars in the near future. But as we scroll down, and I'm not going to read these, I'll let you go in and read them all, but the transits begin. I started them beginning from 6/1/20, which was yesterday, all the way to the 31st. You'll notice that not every day has a transit, because even in our own stars, not every day there's a transit. And I'm not going to go through all of these, but I am going to bring one to light because it already happened, so I can talk about this. So Back on the 23rd of February at 4:37 p.m. exact, Neptune squared Uranus in Trump's own personal stars. No one else's, just his. And a lot of people have this placement. So Neptune is illusions. When we square something, it's tension. And with Uranus, it's shocking news. So, like it says, during this once-in-a-lifetime transit, you will have difficulty separating fact from fantasy. Your Neptune loosens your grip on reality. You're likely to be the subject to sudden reversals in your mood, and your judgment is more cloudy than usual. You may also be surprised to find that situations and people in your life are not what you believe them to be. So let me refresh some of you out there. Let me refresh your memory. During a February 28th, 2020 campaign rally in South Carolina, President Donald Trump likened the Democrats' criticism of his administration's response to the new COVID-19 virus outbreak to their efforts to impeach him, saying, "There is a new hoax." During the speech, he also seemed to downplay the severity of the outbreak, comparing it to the common flu. I purposely added this one in here because I want you to see his illusions and delusions from his past, and this was one of them. This was a major foobar on his part, and 100,000 plus deaths in his own nation. I won't go out 100% and say this is entirely his fault, but if he would have called a quarantine sooner than later, there would have been more lives saved. And if you think this is over and let's open everything back up, the universe is getting ready to teach Americans a very, very big lesson in ignorance and stupidity. You won't think you're much of a patriot when you're hooked up to a ventilator. It's not fun. It's not pretty. It is a horrible existence to be on a ventilator. I've never been, and I pray to God I don't ever experience it. But I've talked to people who have. It's not fun. So that is just one of the quatrains, or not quatrains, but aspects I posted from the past. The rest I'm going to let you go out there and read. He has no empathy, Gail, for anybody. I don't know how to say it in a nice way. I just don't. He's not a friend to women, let me tell you that, okay? He's not a friend to women. He does not like strong women. He doesn't like women with a voice. He doesn't like powerful women. I have actually men in my own family like this, and they're insignificant little men who are uneducated, not spiritually enlightened. And those are the people that feed into his rhetoric, the people that are uneducated, the people who are not informed, the people who have an underlying tone of racism in them. There's a lot out there. But there's a whole lot of other quatrains, I keep calling them quatrains. They're not quatrains, they're aspects that I've put here starting from yesterday and this one, I'm going to read you one more because this one actually makes sense. Yesterday at 1:32 a.m., Mars, which is action, opposes his ascendant, which is the hidden face he shows to the world. So Trump is a Gemini. His rising sign is Leo. This is why he always wants to be in front of the camera. He's a Leo at heart. He's always in front of the camera. He's always wanting. I mean, you saw when he was going on every day doing those briefings. I mean, towards the end, he really made himself look like a complete jackass. I mean, most of us already knew this, but he just kind of sat there going, oh my God. Anyway, yesterday it opposed Mars. And so it says, be prepared for momentary momentary confrontations and oppositions with others. Will only care about his own needs and situations, which he did. My understanding is he started pelting peaceful protesters, and you could sit there and say, no, that's not true. It didn't happen. But I'm going to tell you right now, I went and looked on a news channel that is not affiliated with the Democrats or the Republicans, and let me tell you, it happened. All so he could stand in front of a church holding a Bible. I have a friend who is a criminal profiler and a psychic up in Canada, and on one of his posts he says, I can't believe he didn't burst into flames, which I found really funny. He's got a great sense of humor. But anyway, it says here, okay, so, if I would have been Trump's astrologer, I would have advised him to make better choices yesterday, to not do what he's getting ready to do. There are other ways to do it, whether he would listen to me. I mean, I'm a woman, so probably not. He doesn't even listen to his advisors right now. He goes rogue. Also be prepared, because we are moving into a Platonic phase starting tomorrow. Hold on. I wrote this down in my moon book. I want to make sure I give you exact dates here. Oh, we moved in today. 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. Now remember, Platonic energy is about a 7-day thing. So the 3 days I give, usually 2 days before and 2 days after, they take on the highest concentration. So we did move into a Platonic phase for the 2nd, the 3rd, and the 4th. So like tonight, you'll probably see some of the most bloodiest and the most violent protests ever happening. But Donald Trump's negative days go into effect on June 4th, 5th, and 6th. Let's throw in a lunar eclipse right on him. POTUS is treading on very unstable waters right now. And he could go out like Mussolini. For those of you who don't know who Mussolini is, go Google him. You can see how he went out. You can understand why my relatives from Italy left Italy to come to this country. And when my grandparents came to this country, they weren't Italians first. They were Americans first, Italians second. They were so proud to be part of the United States of America, because that was the American dream. We are a nation built on immigrants. Brooklyn itself, back in the day when my grandparents lived there, I mean, the neighborhood was Italian, Jewish, and Irish predominantly. Those were the 3 races. Now that part of Brooklyn is predominantly Jewish, Puerto Rican. Someone was telling me like Russian, Slavic, something like that. So yes, through the years things change, and the not the geography, but the diversity of a town changes. So yes, he is treading on very dangerous waters right now. With these 3 days of his negative, there could be a possible, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but there is a highly probable chance of some sort of retaliation for him. Like I said, the National Guard and the military have been called. It's going to be a very bloody 24 hours. Full moon and the solar eclipse coming isn't going to make this energy any more easier. And like I said, it's right on your president. I wish I had better news, but I know damn well he's not going to make good choices. So I'm just don't know what to say here. History does repeat itself, and people are not listening. You're absolutely right. This brings me to something that happened to me in Sedona, and this is actually the first time I'm bringing it up. I brought it up to Lady Eyes of Green the other day while we were sitting on her patio. But when I was in Sedona, I went on a little hike, but my purpose for going on the hike was to find a good place to meditate for 30 minutes to an hour. And what better place than between the vortexes in Arizona? I mean, hello? I would have been a fool not to do this. So I did. And I went into it was probably the best meditation session I have ever had in my life. Now, granted, considering where I was, that probably helped tenfold to be amongst the energy of the vortexes and to be in Sedona meditating. But while I was meditating, I got like this vision of something, and it's actually something my mother's had dreams about too, so I know I'm not off base here. I couldn't really decipher who the person was in my vision that was being, it wasn't the greatest of visions. It was actually something rather negative in nature. It was a picture, it was a vision of someone being hung up. Like, I'm not going to say lynching, but something kind of similar to that. It wasn't a person of color that was being hung up. And I couldn't picture the face. The face in the vision was a little blurry. And so I started thinking back after I had this intense meditation session and looking into the future of what December holds for this country. I remember a story my grandmother told me about her ancestors and my grandfather's family. They came here well before Mussolini ever came into power. My grandparents came here in the 1920s from Italy. Actually, my grandmother came here from Brazil because she was born in Brazil. And so they were already established United States American citizens when World War II broke out. But because Italy between 37 and 45 were under fascist dictator rule of Mussolini, and the Italian people were blind to this too. My grandmother told me that she would have letters written from her relatives or cousins back in the southern part of Italy. And it would take 5 to 6 months for those letters to arrive. And the atrocities and the stories that they were telling my grandmother were just horrible. My grandmother was telling me that a lot of our relatives that were in Italy were just like some of the Germans were doing. They were hiding Jewish people in their basement. That was also happening in Italy, contrary to what you want to believe. Some Italians don't want to hear it. Well, you need to study your own history. I'm not talking about American history. I'm talking about Italian history. Study it, learn it, know it. Then you'll be enlightened a little bit. But same was going on in Italy. Italian people were hiding Jewish people in their basement because Mussolini was a fascist dictator just like Hitler. Okay. So my grandmother was telling me this story, and she said that even back then, she knew he would go out in a very violent way because they were so proud to be American, and because they were so proud to be in this country and be able to practice the religion of their choice and be able to embrace their culture, but also incorporate American culture into that. I mean, that really is what the United States of America is about. That Statue of Liberty, give us your tired, give us your hungry, give us your poor. I mean, Statue of Liberty just sits there and goes, oh, shit. Sorry, but it does. That doesn't stand for anything anymore. And I'm not saying we don't have an immigration problem. We do. And it's been going on for a long time. But people don't really study history. They don't really study political history. This all started with Ronald Reagan back in the 80s. This is nothing new, contrary to what people say. So that was just a little vision I had, and I thought, God, I hope I'm wrong. I really do. I don't want Trump to go out like Mussolini, but you know what? If this is how, I mean, look what's happening. I mean, there's more minority and more poor than there are of him and his faction. And even American history, the very thing we were fighting the British for, this is, if you stand with him, you're not fighting for patriotism, you're fighting for fascism. So that's just my little spiel on it. I don't really like getting into too much politics. But anyway, the vision I was having was actually of Mussolini. Why I was visioning something that happened back past is exactly what Lady Eyes of Green just said, because history is repeating itself. And yeah, right, Gail, is disconnected and he has no empathy for anybody. I hate to say this, and this is just me. I don't like people who don't like animals. Okay? If you don't like animals, I don't like you. Because I can judge someone by their character, by how they treat animals. And if you don't like, it's one thing to be allergic to them. I get that. But for just the sheer joy of not wanting animals around because you don't like them, you are missing out on such incredible energy. Like that guy right behind me, my 17-year-old. This is what I mean by I have heartache coming soon. My 17-year-old is sitting right there. I've had that cat since 2003, and he's an old little man in the corner there. But he makes they make my world rock. Okay. I know. He knows I'm talking about him, Linda. Animals do stand for a lot. And, you know, we're put here to help and take care of them. That doesn't mean, you know, I'm not against hunting because, as my Native American friends say, vegetarian means lousy hunter. But what I'm saying is the abuse of animals and not being there for as their advocate is just something I can't fathom. You know, my grandmother was English Canadian. My great grandparents came from England. And even my great grandmother used to say this, and she used to say it with her English British accent. And she always used to say, a home isn't a home without an animal. And you know, she's right. And those words resonate with me. I repeat those over and over. A home isn't a home without some sort of an animal, whether it's one cat, two cats, 10 cats. A home isn't a home, whether it's cats, dogs, it doesn't matter. Hi, baby. Thank you. His name is Murph, and he's an old guy. He's 17, and every day is borrowed time for him. So, but anyway, I just wanted to go over June 1st. There's more. There's June 8th. There's June 14th. Now, on June 14th, that happens to be Trump's birthday. And there's some interesting things going on there, too. You're going to want to read all about that. As I scroll down through the remainder of the year, for example, on July 2nd, Jupiter, which is luck, opposes Saturn, which is karma, and opposes means challenges. So on this day, his judgment is not necessarily going to be very good at this time. God help us. God knows what plans he's going to make. And as you go down, July 5th, Uranus squares Pluto. This is a transit that occurs in a 84-year cycle. So this is going to occur for him on the 5th of July and the 25th of September. So these transits happen twice to him. And there's one transit that's happening continuously for him. It's already happened on February 7th. It's happening again on the 4th of September, and it's going to happen again on October 22nd. And that is where Saturn, which is karma, opposes, which is challenges, Venus, which is wealth and love. This is happening 3 times in a year for him. It's representing his personal relationships are going to be more difficult now. So this can mean marital tension within his household with his wife. Like I said, Saturn is karma. However, in the realm of politics, and I have to go back to politics, but we always have during an election year called October surprise, where a bombshell is dropped right before the election. So I'm going to speculate between October, I'm going to say sometime in the month of October, probably before the 22nd or around there. I think his ex-attorney Cohen is going to drop a book. I think that's in the making. I think that's in the works, and that might be where some of the negatives come from. He also has Jupiter squaring Jupiter twice in 1 month. So the month of September, these two planets are squaring each other. Anytime you have luck challenging, or anytime you have luck with tensions with luck, this means he's going to overestimate his capabilities, and he's going to inflate his ego. I know. Can he inflate it anymore? Yes, he can. He's going to think he can walk on water, but what's getting ready to happen. If you read my reasoning here, I post everything that I've printed here has come straight from the Nostradamus software. You're getting a precursor to what, not your own stars, but what a progressive reading would look like for someone. Like I said, the month of September, his arrogance is going to be incredibly high. There's going to be delusions of grandeur. It also and spends too much time and money. He's going to overestimate his capabilities to inflate his ego. And he's going to, like I say, he's going to think he walks on water, but he must remember he's going to have to keep his feet on the ground and be realistic in the expectations he places upon his country. He's going to feel like he can do everything and anything he wants come September. I'm not sure what the hell is going to get ready to happen here, but oh boy. And I'm going to let you guys finish reading all of these. I've covered quite a bit of them. I'm going to scroll down towards the end because I want to get to Election Day. And I'm going to write a whole new newsletter about solely on Election Day 2020. But on November 3rd of 2020, Trump is operating on one of his lucky dragon days. He has a dragon's head in Gemini. On Election Day, the dragon is cruising through Gemini. However, there's always a however. We do have a Mercury in retrograde. Now, contrary to what modern astrology believes, they say that the retrograde is over right on the 3rd. Goes from October 7th to November 9th of 2020. It's going to create havoc on this year's elections. There are like 1 or 2 scenarios I see playing out here, and I'm going to probably have to go and look at Biden's stars again. If the election was being called on the night of election, Biden would lose. Trump is, by his stars, he's programmed to win. That doesn't mean he's going to win honestly. Okay. Where was I? There are 2 scenarios. Trump wins a second term but doesn't complete his term, which I see happening. He could win a second term. And you're going to see such a revolt and such a revolution in this country. When you have voter suppression, and that's what's happening. This whole thing, this whole spiel he's making about the post office is nothing more than a ploy to suppress the vote. I highly encourage you all to follow someone named Greg Palast. Palast, I don't know if I'm saying his name right. He is an investigative journalist. He's written tons of books about voter suppression and how voter suppression suppresses the minority vote. Trump is creating this thing where he's saying that there's going to be voter fraud. Well, we've been voting for years through mail. How do you think the military vote? How do you think overseas citizens who reside overseas but are still citizens of this country vote? How do you think the elderly vote? Through mail-in ballots. So to sit there and start tampering with the post office, which, mind you, is one of the strongest unions in the country, and to sit there and throw this in the back of people's minds that there's an issue with the post office. This is called gaslighting once again. He's creating something that doesn't exist to make you fearful. Well, his followers. So know that. There's a reason. I told you this energy brings up the post office. Here we go. The post office. Trump. Gemini energy. Okay. He may win a second term but not complete his term, or there will be a recall on all the votes. And if the election is not called within 24 to 48 hours from election day, that time period, he will lose that window of luck. Then there will be a slim, and I mean very slim chance Biden gets in. I will look more into Biden's stars, okay? But I also foresee an election as a blur to some degree. And it's not just me. I've actually had this conversation with real psychics, not psychics that, how do I put this? There's some psychics out there I know voted for Trump, and I kind of just sit there and go, you're a psychic. You're supposed to be able to see into the future and see what happens, and you voted for him? I don't think you're that good of a psychic then. Sorry. I mean, that's just my personal opinion. A canary or a parrot, and then the parrot repeats everything he says. Or we can have a parrot that we train a parrot. Yes, ladies' eyes of green. I voted by mail too before. My mother votes by mail every year. Every senior citizen in my life that I know votes by mail. Every person that has a busy schedule votes by mail. This is nothing new, but he creates a conspiracy theory that makes the weak-minded go into a frenzy. But yes, perhaps we should get him a canary or a parrot, Gail, and we'll train the parrot to talk, and then they can say things to him. Oh, I could think of words. Oh, I can think of a lot of words. Oh, no, I'm just having fun now. That's a great idea, Gail. Boy, the things I could train that parrot to say. So anyway, I went to one of my psychics that is in my circle, and I asked him, because I know he doesn't steer to a left or a right. Some of my psychics in my circle have really started to take on a political stance, and I really kind of question their abilities because I see them as being a little blurred. So I did ask one of my psychic friends who's not infiltrated by religion or politics, and he says he's seeing a blur too. Oh, now my cat is throwing up. He's seeing a blur too. He just can't kind of pinpoint what it is at the moment. And sorry about the sound effects in the back. What he had said to me is that there might be a postponement of the election, which all that will do is create more social unrest, because what it's going to do is create, Trump will purposely stay in power. And there are those conspiracy theories that say he's the last president. So I do believe there will be a full-blown out civil war by or before election day. And I don't see an election happening. And let's not forget, COVID-19 is going to take its second tour of humanity and probably will be at its peak by the end of June, or even in the winter months of December. We are in a Gemini Sagittarius axis until January 21st of 2022. This is in your president's head. This is right on our president, his head, his tail. And just because the head is in Gemini does not mean negative will not happen, for the dragon head and tail are both karmic. If you're a bad person, bad things are going to come to you. Let's use this as an example. He would much rather take a drug he knows nothing about, but is a shareholder of, because he's going to make a lot of money off of this. But he's also risking his own life just to make a buck. And this might very well be his downfall in the next 18 months. If it's one thing Trump loves, and one thing only, it is money. He cares nothing for the poor. He cares nothing for the very people that voted him in. And he is an entertainer who was able to talk a good talk, gaslight you. He's the con artist, the car salesman. And he's easy to con the people who are blind and that will feed into his every word. Here's another thing. All of us as humans, our entire chart takes on a complexity of a planet. Mine is Mercury. One of my kids is Venus. One of my other kids is Uranus. Trump, the complexity of his entire chart is Jupiter. He's not smart. He's not educated. He's lucky. Lucky, lucky, lucky. Many will have to learn the hard way as this country continues to crumble. His luck is running out, though. Like I said, you'll see the first divorce in the White House. She can't stand him. You could see it in her eyes. Yes. Yes, yes, she did marry for money. She has a Capricorn moon. Most people with a Capricorn moon aren't the most loving, feeling people. They're very cold, calculated. Men and women both marry for money and stature. So yes, she did marry for money. But no Taurus woman that I know, no woman in general for what I know, but Taurus especially, isn't going to let humility slide. Yeah, he cheated on her. She probably knew this, but I don't think she realized that he had to pay money from prostitutes to cheat on her. And that's the humility, especially after having a baby 6 weeks prior. That's the humility. He humiliated her in front of the media, public. And for that, I know she will never forget. And she's going to get her revenge one way or another. She's either going to go out a very rich divorcee or a very rich widow. Time will tell. And I will do a little more on Melania Trump stars in the next week or so. Now, before I leave this broadcast, because I'm a firm believer in throwing in positive, we all seem to be going back to normal. Yes, here too. We're going back to normal here too. Things are opening up, not so much in California. Our governor in California is a little more cautious and leery, and for that I commend him. In Arizona, which is, I have my feet in 2 states. One's in California, one's in Arizona. The governor over in Arizona has opened everything back up. We are in full swing. And I also noticed that yesterday, Arizona's COVID case has risen by over, God, I don't remember, but it was a high number. So what I'm saying is a lot of these, and I don't want to bring politics into it, but the blue states seem to be taking more precautions than the red states, because the red states know this is an election year and they don't really care about your life. You see, this is what I'm saying about politicians and religious leaders. They lie. They don't care. Stars now, they will guide you in the right direction and tell you the truth, no matter how painful that truth is. But things are starting to open up here. That's why I'm saying a second wave is coming. So even when I was in Arizona 10 days ago, I only ate out at one restaurant, and that was because I dined al fresco on the patio. I refused to sit in a restaurant, and I'm still like that. I'm still a little leery to sit in a restaurant with people. So I did a lot of takeout, which is fine. And they're acting like nothing happened. Well, unfortunately, the world at large is going to pay the price again. Even England, America too. Just be safe, Gail. Shelter in place as much as you can. Wear your mask. Wash your hands. Keep your immune system up. All these things are just little things that we can do. Okay, where was I? Last note here before I close up. I do want to give you guys a little bit of hope. The next dragon energy that's coming in 18 months is in a Taurus and Scorpio tail. Now that's very deadly. The Scorpio tail is going to be incredibly deadly, but Taurus rules money, finances. So our economy should get a little bit better. It's going to be good 3 to 5 years before we've dug ourselves out of this. This is kind of devastating for us as a nation. But when this axis shifts, you're going to see improvement with finances, and we'll be able to see the beauty in things again, because this energy is going to be ruled by Venus. This is going to be a positive earth dragon with a negative Scorpio tail. So earth and water will be the next. Right now we're dealing with air and fire. It will be deadly energy, though. You see what's happening right now with the police, okay? It's going to get even deadlier for them when this dragon energy moves into Scorpio in 18 months. This is all about police, Secret Service, CIA, sex trafficking. More exposure to that. There'll be like a new sexually transmitted disease coming in 3 years from now. This energy, though, also opens up the doorway for more negative entities to enter. Whenever this dragon's energy moves into Scorpio, this is one of the most powerful energies. I mean, people that are in the metaphysical, when we think of Scorpio, Scorpio rules metaphysics. It rules witchcraft. It rules the spirit world, the underworld. It's in its negative state. So this means that we're going to, how do I put this? Negative energies are going to be conjured up easier. Portals are going to be open that people aren't going to know how to close. And there's going to have that entryway of negative energy, whether it's demons, reptilians. This can also mean negative extraterrestrial energy as well, because not all ETs are good. This planet with its tail going through the sign of metaphysics in Scorpio, it's going to be very deadly, not just for the police, but for a great many people, especially people who have Scorpio in their chart, a high dose of it. Buckle up, folks, because it's going to be a bumpy ride. For we, as a nation, are going to have to endure our own president's karmic residue. And for the next 18 months, we get to endure his hell and the hell he will cast upon us as the United States of America. I'm going to probably lose some followers for posting this, and that's okay. I don't care. I wouldn't be true to myself or the people who follow me if I didn't tell you the truth. You know, I'm not going to come on here and sugarcoat that he's this wonderful man, because he's not a wonderful man. Yeah, I'm going down a rabbit hole too. I'll just bring my cats with me and just go down that rabbit hole. And that's why. And you're right, Pam. That is why we are here. To help healing all this. Yes, you're absolute, to help heal the devastation that's coming. And it's taking its toll on my subconscious from time to time. Like I said, today I'm operating on kind of a negative day. It's going to get worse. Like I said, I share the same stars with Donald Trump. So when he has his negative days, I'm having my negative days, but mine is affecting my subconscious. And so sometimes when this happens, I see vision things that I don't want to see in vision. And it's not that they're creating fear in me, but they're making me realize what's getting ready to happen. And we will get through it, but we will not get through it through division. Okay. And I am the first one that can judge someone by their speech. And I've actually had to deal with this. I've gone on radio shows where I know that the waters in that radio show are very right-wing conservative. I'm not going to mention names or anything, but I probably won't be going on any more shows. And if I do go on those shows, I really am going to stir the pot. It's no longer time for me to be silent. None of us light workers can be silent. And if you are a light worker out there and you actually think what Trump's doing is wonderful and great and you stand with him, you're no light worker. You're no spiritualist. You're no shaman, and you're no healer. You just like to give yourself a label. Lady Eyes of Green, this also, I believe, and I want to hear your take on this because you are my broom sister. I also believe that this window, this 18-month window, we as light workers are going to have to help the healing, help people heal. But I do believe that this window coming is also going to eliminate all the false people. Not all, but a lot of false ones that are in this industry. Whatever path you're on, most light workers, and it's actually, that's really a term I don't like using all that much, even though I say it quite often, because for myself, I've come to the light because I've had to sit in the darkness. And from the darkness, I've seen the light. So when people talk about, oh, the darkness, there's nothing evil or negative about the darkness. We need the darkness. Great goddesses like Hecate and Isis come from the darkness because from the darkness brings the light. So there's some people out there, you know, that go around talking about their light workers. Yes, ma'am, the curtains are being dropped. Nothing is going to be hidden anymore. You are absolutely right. Absolutely. So yeah, there are people out there that call themselves light workers, and I watch them on Facebook. You know, if you stand with this president and what he's doing, you cannot call yourself a light worker. You can't really call yourself a mystic either. That's just my opinion, I guess. But I know a lot of people that stand with me that are very good psychics and very good healers that will agree with me on this. So with that being said, I'm going to end it. And it's not one of my favorite things to do today was get on here and talk about him. I'm not going to lie to any of you today. That article I wrote, it has taken me 20 days to write it. I started it before I went to Arizona. And halfway through it, I said, I can't do this anymore. I need to go and deal with my own life. And I told myself I would finish writing that before June 1st. So here I am. I finally finished it. And like I said, he's not one of the people I like to talk about because it's so divisive. You can even see it happening on my own Facebook page with certain people. So I actually am thinking about posting my news article to my main Facebook page because Lady Eyes of Green, you know, I still got to weed out the idiots. So maybe putting this article on might weed the rest of them out. Anyway, I'm heading out. I'm going to go. I appreciate everybody who joined me today. Linda Craig and Kale and Lady Eyes of Green. Ladies, thank you so much for joining me today. I was going to get back on here later and do some tarot cards. That's going to have to wait till tomorrow. So the other day when I went on, I had my news feed dropped. I went to another one. I noticed there were more birthdays in there. I'm going to honor those birthdays. So any of you out there who put your birthday in, I wrote it down. So I remember, and I will pull cards for you tomorrow on that. Anyway, please be safe out there. Ladies, thanks for tuning in and joining me. I'll see you guys either tomorrow or the day after. Make it a beautiful day. Be kind to one another. And please remember, we are in a Plutonic phase, 2nd, 3rd, 4th. I would even say the 5th as well, because that energy with the full moon, don't go anywhere you're not familiar with. Stay with the tried and true. Don't go into dark alleys, dark spaces. Please, for the love of God, do not protest. Okay? This is where the real danger is going to hit. Protesting is going to get you killed. And I did it yesterday because I knew my window was closing. I told my daughter, I'll go with you. You can have the experience, but you can't go for the rest of the week. Don't go protesting. Try not to watch the news. Hang out with family. Have good conversation. And I'll return. Be safe. Be kind. I'll be back another day. Ciao. Bye, you guys. Love you.